Quasi here. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to control your mind in order to control your reality. To fully understand this, we're going to begin with a model of how our minds work, why we're experiencing the reality that we're experiencing, and how both your conscious and your subconscious mind work together to influence the reality that you're experiencing this very minute. This video is going to go into extreme depth into three main mechanisms that govern your mind and ultimately dictate your reality. And throughout this video, I'll also be sharing with you actionable tools that you can begin to implement right now to see results right before your very eyes. So, without further delay, let's go right ahead and get started. We live in an age where your attention is the most valuable resource. It's no wonder that these big companies are fighting tooth and nail to capture it. I was recently reading an article about how TikTok is used differently in China versus the rest of the world, and how TikTok is actually used to positively influence children in China whilst readily promoting the unhealthier version to the rest of the world to get children hooked. This addiction to social media is draining our dopamine reserves, making us paranoid, robbing us of our attention. And as you probably already know, wherever your attention goes, energy inevitably flows in that direction. So it's imperative now more than ever before that you guard your attention with all your life. So let's get started with mechanism number one via which we get programmed. And this explains our subconscious process and why we've been reacting a certain way, why we've been responding a certain way, and why we've been experiencing the same cycle in our lives that we've been experiencing. This is the key that you must understand in order to fully break out of your habitual way of being and feeling and thinking. So mechanism one is the stimulus response cycle. So let's gain a deeper understanding of how this works. Initially, we're presented with a stimulus. So in this case, let's say you're up one morning at 4 or 5 a.m. or maybe even 6 a.m. Maybe you wake up late. But you hear birds chirping outside your window. Now, when you hear birds chirping, immediately your brain cognizes it. There is cognition. This simply means you cognize that this is a sound, not sight, right? So sound, and then your brain begins to recognize it based on the past, based on past experience. Recognize. This essentially means you recognize that this is a bird chirping, not a dog barking. And now something interesting happens. You now react to this and you express acceptance or resistance. Oh no, I don't like this. This is annoying. This has just woken me up, right? So in this manner, our reaction determines this whole cycle and how it begins. And if we keep reacting the same way that we have been to every single stimulus being presented to us, we will keep experiencing the same results in our lives. So something important can happen here. Up to this point, up until the recognition process, everything is subconscious, kind of like your heart beating. You don't have to tell your heart to beat, it just naturally beats, right? So this whole process is subconscious. It simply happens without your interference. However, this process, the process that can determine the rest of your life's trajectory, this can become conscious. Unfortunately, up until this point, most people have been unconscious about how they've been reacting to things. So from this moment forward, instead of reacting, what we will do is respond. So in the instance of the birds chirping in the morning, instead of expressing dissatisfaction, we can begin to express our awe at nature. Perhaps we've been woken up. Instead of even resisting our dissatisfaction, we can accept that there was a waking up. Instead of ruminating about how the rest of our days are gonna suck because I'm tired because I just woke up early, we can just accept it and deal with it. In this manner, we slowly begin to change the programming in our subconscious mind. And as a result, as you'll learn through mechanism 2, when I'm going to discuss it, you'll see how just learning to interrupt this pattern at this stage and just simply learning to respond will make dramatic shifts in your life, okay? So in understanding this, this may all be great, but it's much easier said than done. So we need a tool to allow us to wake up at this phase so that we don't react. We don't immediately go into a habitual way of reacting to it. Okay, so, any stimulus that's presented to you, maybe you hear that the inflation rates are rising, maybe you see in society or something with the government or, something that you don't like and you've been habitually reacting to it in a way that you don't want, right? How do we change that pattern? This all comes down to learning how to center your attention. And I'm super excited to share this with you. So let's learn how to center our attention so we can gain back control and learn how to consciously respond to the different stimuluses that come in our lives. So I was actually reading this book recently. It's called Mind Control by Jose Silva. And it reminded me of something that I learned a long time ago. But something interesting that I discovered was your brain actually functions in 5 different brainwave states, okay? And the 5 different levels of function are gamma, which is, I believe, the highest level of brainwave, the highest frequency of brainwave. So in this state, you're more focused on intense concentration and you can pretty much focus harder, okay? The next stage, which is our normal, everyday, regular consciousness, is the beta brain state. This is where everyone is functioning at. A level below that is the alpha brain state. Okay, this is more when you're relaxed. A little below that is the theta brain state. This is more light sleep, rapid eye movement, and a level even below that, your brain waves are just almost like the frequency is so low, it's unrecognizable. It's the delta brain state. This is more like deep sleep. Our goal here is to simply switch from beta to alpha. If you can do this to program your mind with whatever it is that you want to program it with, and as a result, experience what you want in your reality, okay? So the whole purpose of the centering attention exercise is to get you more and more into the alpha brain state and just learn how to function in this state in your daily living. For most of you who are doing this exercise for the first time, you're going to experience an overwhelming sense of calm and peace. And it'll be quite different to what you've been experiencing in daily living. But for some of you, this will be quite normal. For regular meditators, you won't feel a difference because you've been functioning in this brain state and you're very accustomed to functioning in this brain state. So let's get straight to the exercise. So this exercise has 2 simple steps. Step number 1, every single hour, whenever the clock hits 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, the zeros, what I want you to do is set an alarm on your phone or a gentle reminder somewhere, okay? We just want to do this once every hour. We want a reminder once every hour. To get started off, this is quite sufficient. And we're going to call this waking up. Every hour we're waking up from whatever it is we were so immersed in, okay? Wake up every hour. Now, what we want to do is observe our breathing for 1 minute. Simple. What you do is you set a timer for 1 minute, you sit in a very comfortable, relaxed space with your spine straight and erect, and you just simply observe your in-breath and your out-breath. Normal breathing pattern. Don't try to change your breathing pattern. Just observe the natural breathing pattern that's already there. Very, very important, okay? Once you do this for a minute, you'll notice that the functioning of your brain waves has changed. Everything's slowing down a little bit. You can even slow down your breath without, forcing it, without making it feel unnatural. As you do that, your brain waves literally start to change. And as you center yourself, you're better able to respond. You're better able to become a more conscious human being, okay? So observe breath for 1 minute. So if you do this with me right now, simply stay there and observe your breathing. In, out. You can feel the sensations around your nasal, your nose area. That's all, just for 1 minute, every single hour. Keep doing this for 30 days, your life will change profoundly. Like if this is something if you've never done before, I'm very, very certain, I can almost guarantee your life will completely change. Okay, so this is how we gain our attention back. And what's interesting is you'll be less hooked onto the unconscious behaviors that you've been accustomed to doing, like checking your phone, scrolling through social media, jumping from one app to the next, and just living mindlessly. You'll want more peace, and you'll have more space. There's more calmness, more ease. Everything just happens easily. There's less rush from moving from one thing to the next, okay? So please do this exercise for the next 30 days. I'm excited to see what it can bring for you. So now this brings us to mechanism number 2, which is the self-reprogramming cycle. A very, very powerful way for you to reprogram your subconscious mind. Okay, so now that you know how to center your attention and place it where you want to place it, it's time for you to learn how to reprogram your subconscious mind. And what I'm going to share with you here with this diagram, the self-reprogramming cycle, is going to completely change your life. Let's get right to it. Now, what I want you to understand is that the reality you're experiencing right now is all a subject. It's all determined by the convictions that you hold to be true. Okay? I really want you to remember this. Convictions. And before something becomes a conviction, there are 3 levels it must rise through, which is exactly what the self-reprogramming cycle is going to explain. So it initially begins as a thought. Not much importance, a thought we will question any day. Then it evolves into a belief, which is level 2. When the belief is strong enough, it evolves to the level of a conviction, which we will never question. I think there's this great quote that summarizes beautifully. We question everything except the convictions we hold dearly. Those we will never ever question. So what we want to do is learn to unpack the convictions that we've held to be true. And that's what you learn to do with centering your attention, with becoming more conscious, by changing the pattern by which you respond to things. Okay? Now it's time for you to consciously choose the convictions that you need to have in order to achieve what you want. And the secret to this really lies in the subconscious mind. And here's why. Because we have 3 different levels of convictions. There's convictions that we have about 2 things that shape the reality we're experiencing. There is the self-view that we have, how I view myself, which is the identity. Okay? What you're experiencing right now is a direct result of how you view yourself, your complete internal world. If you believe you're worthy of something, that's exactly what you're going to do. If you believe you're deserving, then you will work hard to get it. But if you believe that you're not good enough, you won't even put in the work, because you'll be like, well, what's the point? I'm not good enough. So what's the point in even trying? It will never happen. An example I always like to use is whenever I went to the mailroom back in my old apartment, and there was a package that was delivered, but I was uncertain whether or not the package was delivered. And so I would search for the package half-heartedly. But then I checked my phone and I got the notification that the package had definitely been delivered. It's definitely in this room. All I had to do was just find it. And when I started searching for it with that level of conviction, I just knew that, hey, it's here, I just got to find it. My search took on a whole new different level of resolve, of intention. Do you see the difference? So that's what we want to do. We want these convictions that we have chosen ourselves. Unfortunately for mankind right now, 99% of the convictions that they have are the wrong ones, the ones that aren't serving them. That's why there's so much internal conflict.